Greetings, Heartland. I want to take a thought from this past Sunday's sermon, a rabbit trail that we didn't have time to follow up, and use this extra time to take that trail down a little bit further. On Sunday, we looked at the doctrine of original sin, this idea that a tragedy happened thousands of years before we were born that has profound effects on us today. Original sin, we said, is an offensive idea for several reasons. I had a conversation with someone this week after the sermon who said that the most offensive part of the message for him was probably the idea that he would be dependent on someone else, that my condition is set by someone else's actions, that Adam would have set me on a certain path that I could not exit on my own. I prefer to pride myself in being self-made, self-determined. I'm my own man, dependent on no one. A famous poem called Invictus by William Henley captures this feeling well. He says, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." The Apostle Paul says something very different about us. In 1 Corinthians 12, he says, "For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one Spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, 'Because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body,' that would not make it any less a part of the body. But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as He chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, 'I have no need of you,' nor again the head to the feet, 'I have no need of you.' But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together." We Americans have a myth, a strong myth of independence. We might be the most independent people who've ever lived. There are some positive things to that, but it can also make us forget the truth that we are connected. We are in the same boat, in that we are all sinners, all in need of God's mercy and grace. And we are all needy creatures. We are not self-made. We are not self-sustaining. We often want to believe that every man is an island, that I should only be affected by my own choices, not by those of others. But again, that's sort of naive. As we said on Sunday, I wouldn't even exist without the choices and actions of other people. As a baby, I was entirely helpless and would have died without a great deal of care from other people. And for better or for worse, actually both for better and for worse, my life continues to be interconnected to the lives of other people. Many people who I've never even met before. Nowhere is that more obvious than in the issue of food. I need to eat in order to stay alive. Most of us eat 3 times a day, at least. Eating, like few other activities, has the potential to remind me that I am needy, I am dependent, I'm interdependent. And that need is actually a good thing. Our need to eat was not something that came after the fall, it was something that God built into the Garden of Eden before the fall, while Adam and Eve were still in a sinless state of innocent perfection. So This interdependency is built into creation as a good. We are dependent upon God, and God has also made us dependent upon others, upon his other creatures that he has made, upon plants and upon animals for food. In order for us to eat, other creatures must be sacrificed, other creatures must die. The act of eating, like no other act, reminds us 3 times a day that we are dependent on the goodness, the generous provision of God for our very survival, and that his provision tastes good. It is good because he is good. We can easily fall into the trap of thinking that we generate food. But even if we are simply hunters and gatherers, think of all the things that must happen in order to get food from the wild to our plate. Processes, many of which are completely beyond our control. For example, the soil. Scientists tell us that a single teaspoon of soil contains about 1 billion microorganisms, mostly bacterial cells, but also about 120,000 fungal cells and some 25,000 algal cells. An astonishing diversity of creatures that exist, a micro community that's very much alive, that I can't even see, let alone manipulate or create. Another example, rainfall and the weather. As we know, things that are completely beyond our control, but absolutely necessary to the production of food. Some might say, well, we've figured out the weather problem because we've figured out how to do irrigation. But the water underground is also a gift. We sit on top of the Ogallala Aquifer, the world's largest underground body of water. This too is a gift. None of us made it. When our ancestors settled this country, they didn't even know it was there. It's an incredible gift, which God placed right under our feet. Another example of our dependence, of the uncreated goodness. Look at the miracle of the seed. It's a hard, dry kernel, seemingly dead. It's truly an act of faith every time we put one of these little lifeless-looking things into the dirt. Then there's the sunlight and photosynthesis needed. Plants cannot live or grow without it. And yet we have absolutely nothing to do with obtaining sunlight, getting it from outer space to our fields. These are areas over which even the farmer has little or no control. But if you're listening like I am and you're not a farmer, you can add one more layer of dependency to your list. Those of us who are not farmers rely on the skill that God has given to farmers. We cannot generate any of these things, and yet each of them is absolutely indispensable to our food and to our survival. Food does not come from a grocery store, despite what a child who grows up in the suburbs might think. One little boy when asked where food comes from, had an answer that's even more cringe-inducing. He said, "Food comes from money." But as every farmer knows, you can't just take money and turn it into food. It takes an awful lot of work, an awful lot of things over which we have no control. 1 Corinthians 4:7 says this, "What do you have that you did not receive? If then you received it, why do you boast as if you did not receive it?" What this ought to generate in us is not pride, but humility and gratitude. So as you sit down to your next meal, thank God for the ways in which you are dependent on others. And thank Him for the way that His mercy and His grace have rescued us from the predicament of Adam, that we have been invited to get out of the sinking boat that we were in because of Adam. And we've been invited into a family, a body that has as its head the person of Jesus Christ. Have a good day.